Welcome to Living Xtreme Hospitality. I'm Michael Brown, your host, and if you're passionate about hospitality, you're in the right place. With over 46 years of industry experience, my mission is simple: elevate hospitality. In this podcast, we'll explore the world of hospitality with industry experts, from organizational tools to personal anecdotes. We'll uncover the secrets of extreme hospitality, but it's not just about us. We want to hear from you. Your input shapes our discussions, fostering a community dedicated to extreme hospitality. Join the conversation and let's make each episode a step towards hospitality excellence. Living extreme hospitality. Taste the difference. Hello, hospitality family. This is Michael Brown bringing you another episode of Living Extreme Hospitality. And the theme is From the Back of the House Forward. We have a wonderful guest in the name of Chef Jimmy, Santiago de la Cruz. He's an executive chef, has been so for over 30 years. And you ever wonder, what role does the executive chef play in hospitality? Stay tuned and you'll hear what Chef Jimmy's take on hospitality is. I am very honored today to have one of my LinkedIn buddies, my LinkedIn chefs. I've been watching him for years now, and I've always been impressed with his presentations, with the way he promotes his staff, and I just thought really that this would be a good fit for this podcast. So this podcast is Living Extreme Hospitality. We want to raise the bar in this industry so people get what they deserve, is to be treated like kings and queens, and anytime they come into a restaurant or a country club. So today I have with me my buddy, Chef Jimmy, Santiago de la Cruz. What a name, good name that is. I have him here today on my second podcast. As you know, the first podcast, the inaugural, was with Russell Ybarra, the owner and CEO of Gringos and several other concepts. I think this is a good follow-up because what we want to focus today is on the back of the house. And so the title of this podcast is Living Extreme Hospitality from the Back of the House Forward. Many chefs are out there doing it like Chef Jimmy is doing it. And it's an integral part to what we do. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Chef Jimmy. Chef Jimmy, let me ask you a question. Oh, and first of all, let me apologize, guys. I have a sore throat. So I may not sound like Barry White, or maybe I do. I don't know. But anyway, you know what? The show must go on. We used to have this saying in the restaurant: while we're setting up everything, the curtains are down. But when the doors open, it's showtime, baby. So that's how the show must go on. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Chef Jimmy Santiago de la Cruz. He is going to tell you a little bit about his story, his background, and then we're going to segue into how that is relevant to hospitality. Chef Jimmy, welcome.
Thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for having me on as well.
Absolutely.
Just a little bit about myself. I've been in the business for over 38 years now. I've been a chef at most recently in country clubs, but been a chef at conference centers, convention centers, private restaurants, country clubs, of course, and just been doing it for a long time. It's been a long career for me for right now, and still going. Currently, I am the executive chef at the Nelson Sports and Golf Club in Irving, Texas, which is a place in Dallas. So, but before that, I was in Florida. I was the executive chef at the Boca Point Country Club in Boca Raton. And before I left to Florida, I was here in Texas, and I was the executive chef at the Woodlands Country Clubs in the Woodlands, Texas. It's still being very, and also an ACF and TCA member, which is the American Culinary Federation and the Texas Chef Association. that I'm also part of.
So it sounds like, Chef, you've invested a lot in your career, and you've been an executive chef for a good part of your career in many prestigious places. You know, tell me about how you got the urge to do this. What started it all?
Okay, man, it's a long story, but I'm gonna try to make it short. um, I'm Mexican. I was born in Mexico.
Mhm.
Uh, but my parents brought us the family when we were very young. I was about 3, 4 years old, so I grew up in the San Antonio area, and you know, and myself of being a Mexican and coming and kind of grew up. Well, I did grow up here in the States, so but I didn't know what a chef was. This is back, you know, 38 years ago now,
Mhm.
and and my focus when I was in high school and things like that, I was focused in joining the military, and I was one of those guys with, I wanted to be like a SEAL, Ranger,
Mhm.
that type of that type of military training, and and I got a curveball thrown at me where I started working in the kitchen,
Okay.
and I was a dishwasher at Oak Hills Country Club in San Antonio, and the chef there was his name was Paul Rosmeyer.
Mhm.
Paul Rosmeyer was a European chef from Germany, and and he's actually the one that actually asked me if I was interested in the culinary world, and so from there, it was kind of weird because I didn't know what a chef was. I didn't know the culinary. All I knew was Mexican food, fried chicken,
Mhm.
the common stuff that
Good
you're
stuff.
growing up with and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And so when he asked me to, if I was interested in the culinary career, I'm like, man, but I'm not a girl,
Mhm.
I'm not a girl. And he's like, well, you don't have to be a girl to cook. And I'm like, well, only my mom cooks.
Mhm.
So only my mom and the girls in the household were the ones that did the cooking. And so he kind of like said, hey, well, why don't you try it? Because we were going to need a backup of a fast line cook, I guess, or a more fast cuisine
Mhm.
in our 19th hole restaurant. So from that point, he's like, well, why don't you try it? And I said, you know what, I'll try it. And I just remember this. I remember him training with a couple of guys there. One of them was named is Jesse. The other one was named is Albert. And these two guys were really nice to me, and they were teaching me. But what I remember, where everything I think it turned for me, was the chef invited me to a chef's meeting, which is by the Texas Chef Association, and he was the president of the chapter.
Okay.
And he says, well, you know what? It's a Monday. We're closed at the club. Come by, help me with the food, and you could meet other chefs. So I'm like, I said, oh, okay. So I did that. I came in on a Monday, uh, helped him out, just whatever I could. I didn't know anything. And I remember the chefs coming in for the meeting, and I think that was the turning point where I said, you know what, I I kind of dig this. And then plus we had a lot of talented uh, culinary brigade there at that club, and I saw the ice carvings, and I saw the pates and the galantines, and just everything that we did there. I got to play with fire,
Mhm.
and I guess that's what I wanted to do, was play with fire,
Yeah.
and it took from there. And then I still tell these guys I remember the first plate I put together by myself, which was a chicken fried steak. The chicken fried steak was a frozen chicken fried steak that I took out of the freezer.
Mhm.
Mashed potatoes that was already done, that was on the hot line, but I sauteed I heated up. I didn't even know what I was doing. But I heated up the green beans and I put the sauce on top. But at that moment, when I put that all those things together on one plate, that was an order for a member, and I put it together, and I remember putting it on the hotline, and I was like, hey, I kind of digged it. So then from then on, I just I did an apprenticeship program with the same chef there at the club, the Texas Chef Association and ACF apprenticeship program, and
So,
my career started from there.
so Chef, you just mentioned something very, very pivotal in your career. So, first of all, a couple things. Somebody mentored you, right? Second of
Yes.
all, after you got your first baptism of fire, was knowing that you were creating something for a real live person. And that combined made you to the chef you are today, because you told me in our pre-meeting that you'll spend time going out into the dining room and talking to the members and your guests, right? So tell us a little bit about how that ties into living extreme hospitality from the back of the house forward.
I mean, the way I see it is, I love going to and going to the dining room, and I love interacting with the members. But I've always done that. I'm that kind of person or a chef. I do like to know what the guests are saying. I do like to know where what they like, what they don't like. Especially, I've been here at this club for about a year now, and and the members didn't know the chefs, or they never saw the chef. And now that I go out there and they see me, and I'm very interactive with them, and I ask them, what do you think? And I ask their opinion. I ask their, you know, their, their likings and things like that. So I take all that, and then I try to, hit the majority of the members on what they like. And then, and if I find out what they like and it's something that I get a lot of people liking, I kind of like interact that with into the menu. But important part is, man, it's I came up when chefs were just chefs and they were in back of the house, and now and it's true. The media has done a lot of good, and I think it's done a lot of bad. But the good part is that chefs now they are celebrities. They are in your own right. I go out to the dining room, and I think I told you this last time. I can go out into the dining room, and I'll spend 1 or 2 hours in the dining room just talking to the members, and they just want to talk to me. We're not even talking about food sometimes. We're talking about, I get to know them personally.
Mhm.
Uh, and I think that works out in your best interest as even in a standalone restaurant, knowing your customers, or the chefs knowing your customers, that brings them back. Uh, at the staff meeting today was I talked a little bit about that, where now we have our membership that used to go other places to celebrate birthdays and special occasion days for them, and now they'll call me, they'll message me, they'll make a reservation, and they'll celebrate their special day here with us, where before it didn't. So that, you build a relationship with them, and this works in the standalone restaurants and hotels or whatnot, here, especially at the club. And that's where it goes hand in hand, I think. And then plus, I'm one of those guys that, if we do something great and people love it, I actually either if they make something that one of my cooks, if they make something that the guest likes or loves, and they're just raving about it, I'll take that, one of whoever it was, I'll take that cook or the sous chef out there and say, hey, this is the guy that made you the dish today. So they're like, oh wow, they get excited. The guests do, and and plus that builds also loyalty with the your staff. And I enjoy that part of what I do, where I combine the front of the house and the back of the house uh, interactions, and then plus also the kitchen staff, because they're not out there and they don't get to interact with our guests, but they in times they do when I take them out there. Another thing that I do that is kind of cool, and then the people that love it, is that when it's full, the restaurant's full, and I'm talking to them, and and their food, I can see their food takes a little bit of time, but then I'll bring them to the back of the kitchen, and I just give them a kitchen tour. I tell them how it works, how do we operate, where the line comes, where the pantry, where the your cold stuff comes out of, where the hot line is, and the prep area, and how many people you have working, the runners, so they get to experience that too. So that kind of like puts them at ease, and they're like, oh, what a great experience. We didn't know that. We didn't know that how it worked. So that also educates our members on how it works, and that's been very, very, very positive. And I've done it here, and I've done it everywhere that I've been. So that's kind of like the way I like to operate the business on the operation side.
Chef, man,
So
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Chef, but man, you just said a whole lot. And I hope our listeners are really paying attention to this because you don't see this everywhere. This is like you're the captain of your ship. You're like Captain Steubing on the Love Boat, you know? That you know what I'm saying? You're running the ship and you're making everything come together for hospitality's sake. I'm telling you right now, the people that were listening right now who are looking to get into the restaurant business that can take from this some really important pointers, but also people that are just customers and so forth. They can now this says to them, you know what? If I can go to Chef Jimmy and do it, then Chef Ralph up the street should be able to do it too. Let me see if they'll do that for me. You know what I mean? It's like it has to be I call it truth in dining. We have truth in
right,
dining where we say if we're going to serve a cut of meat, it better be that right cut of meat, right? If we're going to educate our
exactly,
guests, we're going to have to run clean kitchens. We're going to have to make sure that they're able, that their tour is valuable and worthwhile. Another thing you said, Chef, was you said that you listen, okay, to your guests. Now, there's a guy by the name of Tillman Fertitta. He owns Landry's. He pretty much in Texas here, he owns almost all of the shoreline restaurants. He has Landry's and hotels and everything. He wrote a book called Shut Up and Listen. Shut up and listen. And so that's exactly
hmm
what you just said you do. You listen, and therefore you can provide, what better way to make a business grow than to give the people what they want, right? Um, I also
yes,
I also love the point that you said about uh, giving honor to your staff, right? And when they're and giving them recognition because you're doing what your mentor did to you,
right,
giving you an opportunity to be seen, and that deepens their careers. The kitchen tour, great. Education, great. Touching tables, awesome. So, so we've just learned firsthand from Chef Jimmy. I love to say his full name, Santiago de la Cruz. We just learned firsthand what it's like to be the captain of the ship from the back of the house. Obviously, you have a connection also with management in the front of the house. Tell us a little bit about that.
well, you know what, I do have to say about the way I run things, or maybe not the way I run things, but the way my expectations and my just my self discipline and my self standards. I'm pretty tough too at the same time. I'm not, just candy.
Mhm.
I run a discipline. I'm very disciplined. So, there's, just to give you an example, I mean, in the kitchen, and I mean, our spices are in alphabetical order, and the staff knows that it needs to be there.
Mhm.
Everything's got its place.
Mhm.
Everything has its
What's that called?
It's just everything has its place.
The mise en
The
place.
standards,
Yeah.
I would say what?
The mise en place.
Yeah, the mise en place. Everything needs to be in order, right? Um, we on the front of the house, the same thing. I don't let no trays go out there that are dirty, no carts that are dirty. I'm very detailed about stuff like that. I told you earlier that I'll bring in the guests, the members to the kitchen, and I don't have to worry about, oh, is the kitchen clean? Oh, are the guys wearing a hat? Oh, I don't have to worry about that because it's always on. It's always like that. So it doesn't matter what time I bring them in. If we're busy, and that's when I like to do it because they get to see all the commotion and what's going on. So it looks like that all the time. So the staff is trained like that. With the back of the house and the front of the house management, I'm very vocal. I'm very demanding too. So and there's a saying, the chef's always right. That's true here in my kitchen.
Gotcha, gotcha. So I get you, and I don't believe that you're probably a chef by what's his name, Ramsay or
No, 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 nothing
right.
like that.
But now what I see and what I'm hearing from you, there's probably a method to that. So
Yes.
give us a couple of key points because I know when you walk in and you see that clean kitchen, no matter what time of day it is, and you see everything, the spices lined up and clean trays and so forth, it gives you a good feeling. But obviously you have to get to that point. So how do you motivate being tough? I get it, but how do you get your staff to buy into that? How do you get them to
Um, you
agree
know,
and do
uh,
it?
okay, first, my strategy is, I let them see. I'm gonna give you an example here. You know, I let them see me doing the hard work. you know, uh, Organizing and putting things where I need them and making my sheet, my inventory sheet to shelf, the cleanliness,
Mhm,
uh, practice what you preach.
mhm,
If you're teaching them, you're teaching them the right way, and you're cutting board, your mise en place, making
mhm,
sure everything's straight, everything your towels are folded,
mhm.
all those little things that I expect them to do, I do it. And I let them see, I let them know that, oh man, he does it. So they kind of like, some will get it, some won't. So, the ones that get it, great. You know that those are the team players that you want. The others that don't get it, they just need to find somewhere else where they're able to do what they want.
Gotcha.
But with me, I'm disciplined like that. Um, and it's just like any job I've been to, it's always a challenge at the beginning,
Mhm.
but once they get it, they understand it, and it's easier for them. That's when they're like, oh, it works, or oh, it's much easier. Oh, it's not as hard as it was before. So it kind of like that's the way I motivate. It's like I do the hard work and I see them. I let them see me doing the hard work and the long hours, and they're like, man, this guy doesn't quit, you
Mm,
know. And then after that, my expectation is set.
okay.
So my expectation is set. So then, but then I am not the type that will let it go. If I
Okay.
say it once, I'm going to say it a million times, and they get it. So, and again, the ones that do, great, because those are the ones that will flourish and go further, and you can count on them. The ones that don't, they usually leave on their own. But I mean, that's kind of like the way I run, how I motivate, or how I start with them buying in, and it's worked everywhere I've been. So I'm a neat, I'm like I said, I'm a neat freak. I'm a organized freak. Um, you'll never see my desk messed up. At the end of the night, at the end of my day, my desk is wiped with a sanitizer cloth. My papers are put in order. My order guides are on the clipboard. I think you can see them.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything when I leave, everything's perfect. So when I get here the next day, I expect that to be just like that,
Well,
and including the.
Chef, I'm glad you can't see my office right now because I would pale by comparison. I have what you call an organized mess. I know what piles have what in it, but it's not like what I see in the background over by you. But I will get there one day possibly. I'm very organized as well, but and I'm an efficiency expert, so I like to try to. One manager told me once, they said I had the most creative way of being lazy. That's because I that's
That's a
because
good
I
one.
always came up with inventions and how to get it done quicker, you know. If I worked for you, I'd be saying, "Hey, chef, man, um, maybe if we did it this way, we could shave 5 minutes, you know." But
Yeah,
I heard you say number one, you lead by example. I heard you say that you demonstrate the benefits of being organized. And then the one thing that someone said one day is that as leaders, we should be chief information officers. Like you say it once, you'll say it 1,000 times. Information officers. I remember when I had my food truck, I used to say to my wife, man, I don't understand it. I asked somebody to clean off the counters or no, to wipe the windows. And every time they come and say, well, where's the Windex? It's in the same place that it's always been. But they can't find it, you know. And so she said to me, Michael, you have to have see these days we have staff that they're very distracted. You know, they walk into work and they have their cell phones and they're, going through all kinds of things. So when I was coming up, I spent an hour preparing to go to work. You know, if I was a
right.
waiter, I had my table crummer, I had all my pens and all that. And so, my wife would say, "Wow, every time you go to work, you have all your tools ready." I used to bring in my own portable stoves in case I did a tableside service or something like that. But these days, people are very distracted. So she said, "I need you. You should come up with a thing called training at a glance." And we abbreviated tags, training at a glance. And so that was
That's
this is how you greet the customer, and it was right there by the register. So you say, "Hello, welcome to Jamboritos." Da, 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 da. So this is how you sell the food. You sell it out another window. It's right there, so they don't have to think about it. It's right there in front of them. Starbucks is really good at that. Starbucks, they have it dialed in. Like when the creamer should be changed, an alarm goes off. When the coffee
yeah.
needs to be calibrated. All these things are training at a glance. So I'm incorporating that in my up and coming restaurant as well. And hopefully our listeners will consider this as well, is that training at a glance will help the people be reminded of the most important parts of their jobs. And so the abbreviation is tags. And sometimes it could be just inspirational, like, as you're walking out of the kitchen with the food, presentation is important. You know what I mean? It's like you see the sign, you know. So anyway, but
I like that. That's kind of smart.
like I said, I had the most creative way of being lazy. So uh I'm
I get it.
I'm just like, how can we systematize this? You used to see my kitchen at home. The wife comes in with all kinds of groceries, and the meat can't stay in the refrigerator more than 6 hours because I got to get it fresh, right? So I'm I'm blackening
Yeah, yeah.
chicken in the garage. I'm baking turkey in the oven. I'm making burgers on this grill, and I'm knocking it all out. And then I'm flash freezing it, and then I'm putting it in Ziploc bags. And so, what do you want for dinner? Oh, I'd like to have some ribs. Okay, take out the ribs. 6 minutes in the mic. 6 minutes. I love yams, and I have a Ninja air fryer, and so it does like five
Mhm.
different things. But I'll take the ribs out of the freezer, put them in there. I'm not sorry, the yams. I'll wrap them in foil, put them in the Ninja for an hour, and I press a button for convection bake. An hour and 30 minutes. Hour 30 minutes later, it's done. So anyway, I got off on a tangent, but
No.
That's what we do. That's what we do. So we have just a couple of minutes left. I really appreciate your time.
I did want to add something to when you said about the staff.
Mhm.
Another thing that I want to mention that I do is when we're cooking or whatnot, and we're creating, and they have either a better presentation or a better way of doing it, or the way they did it was make more sense. I'm that type of chef that will let them do that. If they do a better presentation than me, and they do it, and I'm like, okay, this is the way we're doing it. I won't, I let them shine. I
Yeah.
let them, yeah, like they feel good. Just yesterday, I had one of the pantry ladies come and before anything, any feature or anything, I like to see it before we we present it to the service staff.
Mhm.
And yesterday she plated up the tiramisu, and she brought it to me, and she made a chocolate paint. She did some fresh berries. She did the tiramisu, tiramisu cake type, and then she put her garnishes. So she brings it to me, and I look at it, and she goes, "So what do you think, chef?" I said, "I think this is perfect." I said, I said, "This is perfect." I said, "I don't even have to change anything." So when that happens, she's like, "Oh shoot, man! It's I did it good. He didn't change anything." And a lot of times I will. That yesterday I didn't, because
Yeah.
she did a great job.
Wow.
So I let them do that.
Wow.
If they do something and it's better than what I could do, or it's to our standards,
Yes.
I'm that kind of guy. I'll let them shine.
Guys, listen, we're so blessed to have Chef Jimmy Santiago de la Cruz with us today, talking about from the back of the house forward, how we can live extreme hospitality. I want you guys to just take notes and just remember some of the things that you've learned today. Chef, thank you so much for your time. I know how busy you are. I'm surprised somebody didn't bust in the door and say, Chef, we need you. But
No,
that's
I put a big sign.
you said do not disturb, right?
I did.
I hope to do this again with you one day. I've never met you in person, but if you're ever here in this side of town, you got a place to come to. Definitely want to have you invited to our inaugural grand opening of Jamborito's Cajun Grill. And again, Chef, thank you so much. Okay,
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me.
you're welcome. And could you close us out with something in Spanish? How do you say goodbye in Spanish? Hasta la plaza.
What I like to say, adios and provecho.
Provecho, what does that mean?
Provecho means like enjoy. And
Okay,
when somebody's coming and eat, and and you serve their food, and before they start eating, you tell them provecho means enjoy.
awesome. Okay, thank you, Chef.
Thank you for joining us today. It's a wrap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Living Extreme Hospitality. Taste the difference.